Good morning, boob tube. I'm gonna warn you kids. I mean, nobody watches these videos, but if any young kids ever watch these videos, first of all, I'm sorry for the odd curse word I throw out because I can't help myself sometimes when it comes to hockey and the Leafs. But as you reach your 40s, your body slowly tells you little things that you're aging and you can't do the things you used to, little muscle spasms and stuff like that. But one of the biggest things I noticed is the memory. I used to have a great memory. Now it's almost zero. It's crazy. At first I thought, like, is this early Alzheimer's or something? But then I Googled some stuff and it's like, no, when you reach your 40s, your memory starts to go downhill no matter what. So it's all good. And sometimes you forget stuff you don't want to do. So it's not such a bad thing, right? So, but anyways, the point of that is that the Leafs played the Kings earlier in the week and I totally forgot to post a video for it. So I thought this is a 2-in-1 kind of shot because the Leafs played Vegas last night. So we'll start with LA a few nights ago. They visited Toronto, and LA's record is pretty bad. They're a team that's kind of in transition, but I don't think they're as bad a team as their record indicates. They still got some really good players. They still have a good goalie, and the game against the Leafs earlier in the week was a really tightly contested kind of contest. After the game, in Babcock's press interview, I heard some of the reporters asking, like, this was a pretty ugly game, not a lot of chances and stuff like that. And then Babcock said, yeah, it was beautiful. And I kind of agree with his sentiment in the fact that I think, like, the shots in the first period were like maybe like 8-4 LA. Like, it was so few chances. It was just every inch of ice was contested. Every loose puck was a battle. It was just two teams playing really hard and neither team giving an inch and playing pretty good defense. And, they really had to work for the chances that they did get, both teams. So it was one of those games, which I agree. It's not this flash and power play chances deciding games and all these breakaways and 2-on-1s and stuff. It was a good, dirty, not dirty, but like gritty kind of hockey game where no quarter was given and none was taken. There was no scoring in the first. Probably the biggest thing that happened in the first was Kerfoot got absolutely leveled by Jeff Carter with a beautiful, beautiful hit. I wish it was the Leafs giving out those kind of hits, but the reason I mention it is that Kerfoot left after the hit and didn't return for all of the first period, but he was back in the second. And then he's actually the guy who opened the scoring in the second period. There was kind of a turnover at the LA blue line, and then somebody slipped Kerfoot the puck, and he just raced in all alone and roofed a high shot past Quick, and that kind of opened things up. And then LA would strike back, but then in the just halfway through the third period, Matthews would score, and then Nylander would score about 30 seconds later on a couple of good efforts by those two. A couple of the big boys, the big higher paid guys getting the goals and putting the Leafs up 3-1, and that's the way it would end. The stats were all really close in the game. The shots were close, the hits were close, the faceoffs were close. They both took a few penalties. It was all very close and closely contested. And the 3-1 final was a little. I mean, 3-1's still a pretty close game, but it was more like a game that I thought, if the Leafs hadn't broken it open there in the third, it really was one of those games that felt destined to go to overtime with how close everything was. So, but they grounded out and got a big 2 points against the Kings, and then what should have been the tougher game against the Golden Knights last night. Actually, they came out in the first period, and it was a very similar kind of game to the LA game. It was just closely checked, close everything. It was, again, the battles for every chance that they got. Only in this game, it was a little more free flowing and a lot more chances. So the shot totals on either side were both a lot higher. They were in the 30s. They were only one shot apart, so it was all very close. But the Leafs definitely came out with a lot more jam in the first period. They were flying. The pace was really high. Like I said, it was very tightly contested, but the pace was high and the energy was high on both sides. And but the Leafs fell into a bit of a funk in the second period. Not that they were playing badly, but they couldn't get any shots. They didn't have a shot for pretty much all of the second period. They didn't get their first shot of the period until late in the period, and and it was looking kind of like, oh, they've kind of disappeared all of a sudden, right? But they got through it with a 0-0 tie again through the second. And then in the third, that's when the little bit of scoring that went on would happen. About 4 minutes in, Vegas got one, and it was a bit of a lucky break. There was a bit of a scramble in front of Anderson, and CC just went to, like, the puck just kind of bounced in front of the crease, and he just went to, fire it into the corner. And he ended up putting it right on the stick of one of the Golden Knights who just tapped it in. So, and it was funny because when you wire a puck into the corner like that to clear it, it's usually shot pretty hard. But CC's was kind of, I think the puck was bouncing and fluttering a bit. So when he tried to whack it out of the way, he didn't get all of it. So it was like, if he got a full piece of it, there's no way the guy would have been able to corral it. It would have just been too hard of a shot or a clearing attempt. But because the puck was fluttering and bouncing, it didn't have enough juice, and it went right onto his stick, and it was almost like a perfect pass just to the wrong guy, right? So it's just one of those things that you can't, you're just reacting to clear the puck out of danger, and sometimes bad things happen like that. So it was just it was something that happens. It was nobody's fault, and but they shook it off, and they kept at it. The third period was a lot better than the second. It was more like the first. And only about 4 minutes later, the Leafs were on the power play, and Matthews got a couple of chances, and then finally buried one from the right face-off dot with a wicked wrist shot. So Fleury didn't get the start in net. Subban did, because Fleury hasn't had much luck against the Leafs. I think he's lost his last 4 against the Leafs, so they decided to start Subban because he's from Toronto. So, and he's relatively new to the league. He hasn't had that many starts. So to get the start in his hometown against the Leafs. And so he played a good game, and Fred, they both played, like I said, the shots were in the 30s. They both had a really good game. And so, again, just like the LA game I thought should have been destined to go to overtime, this one actually did. And the overtime kind of started off slow, but then it got going a bit. And then right near the end, it was pretty late in the period, and Marner and Tavares performed their magic together and ended up scoring a wicked goal from a sharp angle. On a nice little 2-on-1 that Marner set up Tavares. And it's nice to see Tavares get that goal, because this is only his second game back, I guess, from injury, from breaking that finger. He was out for a couple weeks. And in the LA game, he had a gaping, wide open net to shoot on, and he just kind of floated it from really close in, too. He floated it over the crossbar. It's almost like you couldn't do that again if you tried, right? And he totally missed it, and I'm sure that was probably nagging at him over the last few days. So it was nice to see him get a beautiful goal and get on the goal sheet after coming back from injury. That'll probably help make up for that chance against LA eating away at him. So so overall, in those 2 games, I thought the Leafs, Fred played very well in both. He's been good for the most part. He's had a couple little inconsistent games here and there, notwithstanding the Tampa drubbing, which was just an anomaly. But he's had a couple games where he's been kind of so-so. He's let in a couple softies. But for the most part, he's been really good. And then I think his best stretch of hockey has been this last couple games. He's been brilliant. So it's nice to see him rounding into form. And then also the Leafs defense as a whole have been really good. They've got Dermott back now for a few games. Muzzin was back against LA. So they now have their full D-core in, and they're starting to play well and starting to limit chances and especially the higher percentage chances. I think they're really starting to come together that way. So that's all encouraging. So, once they get Hyman back, he's the only guy still out of action, and he's supposed to be back really soon. So very soon they should have their full lineup. Hopefully they can stay healthy. They've been really lucky with injuries over the last few seasons. They've had a couple little ones that have kept guys out for not long, like a week or a few games, sort of thing. So they've been really lucky with injuries. And so the start of this season is more like regular, right? They've had guys hurt for more often and more guys hurt. So that's a little more like what an NHL team goes through on a regular kind of year-by-year basis. So, but hopefully they can, for the most part, stay healthy the rest of the year, get their full lineup in, get rolling, and put this kind of weird start to the year behind them and start getting some momentum and some consistency, and to hopefully make a good playoff push. So Still early in the year though, but things are trending upwards, and we'll see what happens against Philly on Saturday, which is their last home game in a long time. I think they have then 8 or 9 games on the road after that because they have played a lot at home so far to start the year. So, but anyway, that's it for now. We'll see you Sunday morning, hopefully, if I remember. And till then, have a great rest of the week and weekend.